Mayor Vanier.
Here.
Commissioner Jelka.
Here.
Commissioner Larson. Here. Commissioner Peck.
Here.
Commissioner Purney.
Here. I would invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now it's time for a citizens forum, a time for citizens to come before the commission with a topic that is not on the official agenda. Is there anyone here that would like to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to awards and proclamations. There are none. No public hearings. We'll go on to the consent agenda.
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of February 9th, 2009. Item 6.2, approve the minutes of February 18th, 2009. Item 6.3, authorize purchase of an ALS medic unit from MVP in the amount of $167,778. Item 6.4, acceptance of Fire Act grant funding to purchase physical fitness equipment and training department coordinators. Item 6.5, award bids for one special service SUV from Long MacArthur Ford in the amount of $24,101. Item 6.6, acceptance of public utility easement dedications adjacent to the replat of the Berg Camp subdivision. Item 6.7, approve purchase of a large format digital copier scanner printer from Salina Blueprint in the amended price of $17,150.
Are there any items that a commissioner would like pulled from the consent agenda?
Or if the county commissioners would want their presence outside the room noted in the February 18th minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Move on to development.
Item 7.1, first reading ordinance number 09-10,487, exempting certain property owned by Berg Camp Incorporated.
Mr. Andrews.
Mayor and Commissioners, back in October of 2006, you conducted a public hearing and approved a resolution of intent to grant a tax exemption to Berg Camp Incorporated if they move forward with plans to construct a new 34,000 square foot building out on Schilling Road. They experienced some delays getting that project underway, and in February of 2008, the City Commission granted them an extension to complete that project. It is now complete. They have a certificate of occupancy. They're now in operation, and this is the final step in finalizing their tax exemption. So once this ordinance is adopted and finalizing that exemption locally, it will go on to the Kansas Board of Tax Appeals to implement their tax exemption. At the initial application, they projected investment of $1.2 million and spent $1.8 million on the building project, and projected that they would create 4 new jobs, and at the completion of the project they had hired 12 new employees. So both of those resulted in a slight increase from original estimates, and so their tax exemption on the new building would be 72% for years 1 through 5 and 36% for years 6 through 10. Our recommendation is to adopt the attached ordinance that would formalize their tax exemption. With that, I'd be available for questions.
Questions of staff? Any public comment? Bring it back to the commission for action.
Mayor Vanier, I move that we approve on first reading ordinance 09-10487, exempting certain property from property taxes owned by Berg Camp Inc.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt on first reading ordinance number 09-10487, exempting certain property owned by Berg Camp Inc. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Move on to administration.
Item 8.1, second reading ordinance number 09-10484, amending Chapter 42, Article 4, Section 42-58 of the Salina Code pertaining to accessory uses.
This ordinance was passed on first reading February 9th, 2009, and since that time, no comments have been received. Are there any public comments at this time? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 09-10484 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 09-10484 on second reading. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Jelka,
Aye.
Commissioner Larson,
Aye.
Commissioner Peck,
Aye.
Commissioner Perney,
Aye.
Mayor Vanir.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.2, second reading ordinance number 09-10485, amending Chapter 42, Article 11, Division 2, Section 42-553 of the Salina Code pertaining to off-street parking space requirements.
This ordinance was adopted on first reading February 9th, 2009, and since that time, no comments have been received. Are there any public comments at this time? Not, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Mayor, I'd move that ordinance number 09-10485 pertaining to off-street parking requirements be approved on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 09-10485 on second reading. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Jelka,
Aye.
Commissioner Larson,
Aye.
Commissioner Peck,
Aye.
Commissioner Perney,
Aye.
Mayor Vanir.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.3, second reading ordinance number 09-10486, amending ordinance number 08-10449, which vacated a segment of a platted restricted access along the west side of Lot 1, Block 1 of the Lundberg Addition.
This ordinance was adopted on first reading February 9th, 2009, and since then, no comments have been received. Are there any public comments at this time? Not, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 09-10486 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 09-10486 on second reading. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Jelka,
Aye.
Commissioner Larson,
Aye.
Commissioner Peck,
Aye.
Commissioner Perney,
Aye.
Mayor Vanir.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.4, Capital Improvement Program, sub-item 8.4A, Resolution 096595, adopting the 2009 through 2013 Capital Improvement Program, sub-item 8.4B, authorize the 2009 sub-CIP program.
Mr. Franz.
Mayor Vanir, Commissioners, this item consists of two actions. Number one is a resolution adopting the 2009 to 2013 Capital Improvement Program budget. It's been underway for some time in terms of preparation. It's been reviewed by the Planning Commission at their February 5th meeting, and then again by the City Commission at study session on February 9th. No changes to that proposed plan have been made since that time. It's an aggressive plan, quite a volume of projects, particularly in the first year. But we have looked at it in terms of the financing capability of the city and feel that it is a doable plan. The 2009 sub-CIP is the first component of that plan, the first year of the regular cash expenditures. The sub-CIP incorporates things such as our computer technology improvements, park improvements, street repair program, sidewalks and ramps, traffic signal improvements, stormwater projects, vehicles and equipment, water and wastewater enhancements. You have previously approved the vehicles and equipment program in, I believe it was late December, so that we could get the first round of bids done for that. Be glad to try to answer any questions you might have regarding those programs.
Questions of staff?
I have a few here. We have for the 2009 sub-CIP, $165,000 in there for tree removal. That tree removal just includes the portion of the levee in the city limits?
No.
I will have to defer on that.
No, Commissioner, that's the item that's actually on your agenda for later to address specifically. Is that correct, Mr. Frazier? Yeah. Yeah, this is an area, what we're going to do is when we put that, when we get to that item, we'll have a map or an aerial photo you'll see up there. But that's actually an area in which our levee is out in the rural unincorporated part of Saline County and protects that area. And we believe also, in the end, it does protect the city by virtue of the path of the water, but in essence, it protects a lot of rural area at the same time.
The figures that are plugged in 2009, 2010 for the Bice Center are just really guesstimates at this point.
Yeah, we had the total of I think 2.2 or 2.3 million, and we looked at what we believe we can reasonably get under contract this year, and what we think would fall into next year, and so we took a guesstimate. If we're off and we think we can get further, we can come back and ask you to amend it, or vice versa. If we think that more of it will fall into 2010, we could also do the same.
2011, we have wayfinding Phase 2. What will that consist of?
Well, the current projects with regards to wayfinding include the KDOT grant awarded project, which is a 9th Street corridor project, and a Crawford Street corridor project. And we also have in here funded for this year the specific downtown project. I think when we look at future phases, Ohio corridor is definitely one, probably Magnolia, and we'll have to look at possibly Schilling. There wouldn't be much to the Schilling, but kind of going back to our arterial streets. We'll learn a lot more once we finally bid the wayfinding, which we're getting very, very close. And when we get those unit prices, we'll kind of see where we're at this year. Mm-hmm. If we have funds available, we may go ahead and look at possibly doing some more of that this year.
Thank you.
I have a question about some park stuff, and I wasn't sure if this should be directed to you or Steve or who.
Steve's here. These are the kind of questions I like to answer. You know, I thought I handled Commissioner Jelkus rather well.
Steve, I was curious about two things. One, the Riverside Park improvements. I see there are some recent improvements over there, but was wondering what else was going in over there. Look.
On the Riverside Park improvements, we addressed some of the current projects we have. We had a slide in storage, and we wanted to get to it. We just didn't get it done last year. We just recently completed that. But that's one of the parks when we do our playground audit that we need to really upgrade a number. And we did that over the years for the major parks, but we didn't touch up on all the neighborhood parks, the smaller parks, and that's one of them that we were addressing to really go through that on that the rest of the equipment in that location.
And then on the, I was curious on the bathroom upgrades or renovations at Sunset, for instance. What sort of a heating system do we use to make those year-round?
We use an electric heating system.
It's just an electric. Okay.
Just generally, we keep them at a temperature to keep the water from freezing in there. It's not at 65 or 80 degrees, but it's just so that people can use them, so we don't have to worry about pipes freezing up in the chases.
Okay. 45.
Any other questions of staff? Any public comment? I'll bring it back to the commission then.
What's the spin?
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 09-6595, adopting the 2009-13 Capital Improvement Program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pass resolution number 096595, which adopts the 2009-2013 Capital Improvement Program. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Second motion.
I would further authorize that we move that we authorize the 2009 sub-CIP program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the 2009 sub-CIP program. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.5, Resolution Number 096597, appointing members to various boards and commissions.
I'm not going to read the names. They will be posted on the website, and they will be available after the meeting. So I will bring that back to the commission.
Mayor, I'd move that we adopt resolution number 096597, appointing members to the Accessibility Advisory Board, the Animal Control Advisory and Appeals Board, the Building Advisory Board, the Library Board, and the Salina Economic Development Incentives Council, and the Airport Authority.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 096597, appointing various members to various boards and commissions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.6, approve purchase of 10 baseball, softball scoreboards.
Mr. Snyder.
Mayor and Commissioners, this item was postponed from February 9th to address concerns raised by one of the vendors, Mr. Roger Naylor Power Ad Company from here in Salina, related to the bicentennial scoreboard and sponsor project provided by the same vendor as recommended on this particular project. Staff has reviewed the contract documents and the City Commission action related to this purchase. The information was recently forwarded to you along with a cover memorandum by Finance Director Rod Franz. Our review has concluded that Daktronics properly forwarded all contractual obligations, or followed all contractual obligations placed on them. The 2009 Special Parks Fund includes a project to replace 5 scoreboards located in Billbrook Park, 4 at the East Crawford Recreation Area, and 1 at Sunset Park. Current boards range up to 20 years in age, and we've had a variety of problems with all the boards. The specifications call for LED lighting, remote controllers, alternates for ad panels and controllers, and all mounting brackets. 9 proposals were received on January 21st. I have broken those down to show the base, the alternates, and the total, so you can see, and I didn't have that on the previous blue sheet. You can see how these were submitted on this particular sheet. All proposals met specifications as written. As I mentioned earlier a couple weeks ago, and again today, the ad panel alternate did not specify a particular size. The Daktronics ad panel submitted is 2 foot tall by 3 foot wide that mounts directly to the front of the board, while all the other vendors submitted, we think, full-length panels, or for the most part we do, full-length panels that mounted either below or above the scoreboard. When contacted, Daktronics stated the full-length ad panels that they would provide would cost an additional $4,000 if we chose to go that route. The Special Parks Fund has $40,000 budgeted for this project. It is staff's recommendation the City Commission approve purchase of 10 baseball, softball scoreboards from the Special Parks Fund Project 09-2749 from Daktronics, Hoyt, Kansas, in the amount of $30,000, $809. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions of staff? Thank you. Any public comment? Not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
I had suggested last week that we postpone this after hearing Mr. Naylor's complaints about how the scoreboard that purchase of the Bicentennial Center had been handled, and after studying the matter further this week, I've concluded it's too late to go back and figure out, sort that situation out. If he had complaints about that, I wish he would have brought them to us a long time ago, but several years after the fact, it's hard to know exactly what did happen. Most of the principals are gone. So I will move that we approve the purchase of the 10 baseball, softball scoreboards from Daktronics in the amount of $30,809.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of 10 baseball, softball scoreboards from Daktronics in the amount of $30,809. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Item 8.7, award of contract for the tree removal project number 08-2726.
Mr. Stack.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This project is part of our levy work and annual maintenance work that we need to perform to keep the levee in good graces with the Corps of Engineers. The reason for the work is over the last few years, I have 3 inspection reports in here specifically that relate to the amount of trees and growth that's in the diversion channel of the levee, as well as trees that are near the levee. And we have been cited for needing to get those cleaned out. And our city maintenance crews have done they're able to do some of the portions of the tree removal. However, the parts we're wanting to contract out are in a very deep portion of the channel, and also it's hard for our guys to access and too steep for them to actually get in there and really do a good job of it. So the nature of the work for this project would be, over here on the map we've got shown, the main portion that we were cited on last year in our 2008 annual inspection is east of Ohio and south of Waterwell Road. It's a fairly sizable hedgerow that is near the levee, as you can see on the top, kind of the top right there. Kind of just gives you at least an idea where it's at. There's actually a picture in the packet that shows kind of the trees and the hedgerow. It'd be the first, second, third page of the packet behind the blue sheet. And they cited us that said that these really need to be removed. And so these are very large trees. They require excavating about 3 to 4 feet from below the tree once the tree comes out, and then removing the soil and putting back compacted soil. So it's a sizable portion. And last year we actually did this work along Ohio, south of this area. Mike's showing us there along the green. Last year we performed a lot of tree removal along the levee portion in that area. Malm Construction did that work for us, and it was definitely a little more reasonable than the prices we received this year for the actual large tree removals. However, we bid some alternates this year, as well as the portion east of Ohio, south of Waterwell. The alternates are A, B, and C on the south portion of the diversion ditch there. A, B, and C there. That's the deeper portions of the Dry Creek area, and we wanted to see what they'd charge us to remove and grub out trees in that area as well. And so overall, they gave us a pretty good value for clearing out a lot of trees, a lot of work that needs to be done that our guys aren't going to be able to do, and for a reasonable value. So we felt like it was a little bit more for the large trees. However, overall, it was a good value, and they could get it done in the time frames that are necessary. Time frames that are necessary are the Corps has a kind of a period where they do not like any work to be done on the levee for good reason, between April 1st and August 1st, in case there's a flood. We don't want to have any open holes along the levee or any major work going on. So we were wanting to get the main portion of the work, which is the east of Ohio, south of Waterwell, done by April 1st. So that's why we are here today requesting that this contract be approved, as it does need to happen fairly quickly. However, over the next 6 months, they can work in the creek area along the Dry Creek down there, and that doesn't really have an impact on the levee. It's just clearing trees through the ditch. So they could be able to do that after April 1st and be just fine. With a completion date of December 31st of this year, we didn't really feel like we need to put any tight time constraints on them for that work, just because it's work that we're not able to do, and they can do it as fill-in work as necessary. And it's a fairly large area, so they'll be able to get it done by the end of the year. So with that, funding-wise, we have some money budgeted in our capital improvement program. Part of our stormwater monies, this is a pretty important stormwater component to the city. This is definitely a large project, larger than we've proposed for levee tree removal in the past, so we were able to come up with a way to pay for it. We have to defer some of the things we'd like to do, but we feel like this is important and something that needs to happen. And we would entertain questions.
Once this part of it's done, what do we have left on the levee system to?
It's a good question. I tried to include the overall map in your packet as well as a tree removal plan. So if you look at the last page of this portion, we have about 29 areas. We have completed, this will complete number 10, number 11, number 12. Some of these areas were, I guess, in looking at the value of them, they were large portions of the $709,000. So we felt like these were the biggest bulk of what we need done. But there are a lot of other small areas that our guys are working on currently and may be able to get done. So I guess we feel like this gets us about halfway done with the portion that we need. $709,000. This gets us about half of that, and then our guys can continue to work on the smaller trees, and we'll have to look at how much more we have left because we're still surveying exactly how close the trees are and how far close to the levee they are, and then the Corps is helping with guidance on do we need to remove those or not. These we know we have to remove, but some of them are in more of a gray area, and we're still determining that, whether they need to come out or not, and there's a lot of other areas on here that we're still looking at.
This will be the last part you think will have to be contracted out? City personnel can take care of the rest of it, or do you know yet?
We're still looking at that. Mike, do you have a good feel for it?
I can probably help with this. No, there's another section that is very difficult for us to get at. It's over by the Iron Street Bridge.
Okay.
There's a number of trees that would be in that area that the embankments are very steep, and it's probably going to take some special equipment to be able to get in there to remove it. So it isn't really anything that we can do in-house. Like Dan said, what we're trying to do is we're trying to be able to take care of as much of the smaller types of vegetation as we can with city crews. Is that last year we weren't able to do too much because of the ice storm. So we didn't do much of that work. The year before we made quite a bit of progress. We've made quite a bit this year, but we haven't been able to make as much as we would have liked to because of two major projects that we're working with our street crews. One was the our Country Oak Estates bridge that we had our street crews put in, and now we're working on the Lakewood Levee embankment there, the repair of that. And so those are the same people. Is because they're working on these other projects, they're not able to do some of the vegetation removal along the channels and the levee toe. Some of the problems that Dan was talking about that we're trying to address is that there's some issues with the Corps, at least on defining about trees that are on private property that are within the 15 feet of the levee. The way the regulations are at this time is that we need to remove all vegetation that's within 15 feet of the toe of the levee. But if it's on private property within that area, we don't have to do that. If that's going to change or not from the Corps standards, we don't know, they don't know. Everyone is still working through all of these levee recertification issues, and that some of the regulations on tree growth, at least for the last few years, has kind of fluctuated to different types of things as they try to fine-tune those requirements. I think that Dan is correct in saying that at this point in time, we're probably looking at about the 50% mark on this. A lot of the other areas that we have are going to be miscellaneous, where they're not really big, large areas to remove trees, other than there's a big section that we have on your maps over in the area of Iron Street Bridge, I think somewhere in there. So there's a number of those that we could probably batch together next year for another contract to be able to remove those, in addition to the larger, more difficult project where we're really not quite sure how we're going to take that one on. But I would say it's fair to say we're about halfway done.
Thank you.
A quick question for Mike or Dan.
Okay.
Obviously, if trees are still alive and the roots have reached out into the levee system, that's not a problem. It's essentially after they die that it...
Well, both ways it's a problem.
ways.
Is a live tree that has its roots into the system, if that tree is knocked over in a flood situation, it'll uproot a lot of earth.
Okay.
And then that creates a weak spot in the levee system. A dead tree that has its roots into the levee system, it creates voids, where it's the same kind of thing. It's a weak spot.
So I guess I understand why we have to do this, but haven't we all but decertified our levee, and that we've just by cutting off all these trees, even though we remove 4-foot depth, don't we have a ton of dead spots now in our levee, or eventually rotten root systems that are going to leave voids?
Well, we do not in those areas where the roots or the trees were removed in 15 feet of the toe of the levee. When they've come there and pulled out the roots, they've come back in and recompacted
Okay, that was
that
my
soil.
question, I guess.
So the work that Dan was saying that they did last year for about $92,000 on South Ohio is that they not only pulled that out and disposed of that, they compacted the soil back
Okay.
in. There are some of these areas that are along the channels. We don't need to do that because it's not within 15 feet of the toe of the levee. So what we'll be doing is cutting off those trees right at the ground level, and then we'll be applying a chemical treatment to those to the stumps to be able to kill those. But so that it still keeps that root system in place for a while there to be able to hold the soil back down, because we're not coming back in to recompact it. So it's better to do that. But anything that's really close to the levee within 15 feet requires the additional recompaction of that soil to core standards.
From looking at the map and looking at the screen, I see that this project is about 2 miles outside of the city limits. Was the county invited to participate in this?
We've invited them, yes.
And their response was?
They are trying to determine what the percentage, should be on that. We've talked with them, we met with them, and they will definitely be part of our levee recertification process. Now, how much and what scope, they have not determined that yet. So whether that's tree removal, ongoing maintenance, one-time fixes, design, I mean, that is something that we talked with a lot about all the aspects of levee recertification, and they've had to sign the PAL agreement as well, so they're somewhat obligated on that portion of it. But as far as determining what they would pay on this portion, they did not venture that guess.
Yeah, Commissioners, we offered up kind of a synopsis of the way the arrangements worked so far, which is with regards to just straight maintenance of the levee. Even, as you can see, there are quite a few miles of that levee that are strictly in the unincorporated area. We reminded the Saline County officials that the city has maintained that for years and years and years and has never charged them or tried to create that type of partnership. But and then I think they had some concerns about the trees getting larger, and we agree. It's not been an issue for the Corps for years and years and years. And then on the heels of the Katrina issue, certainly the Corps of Engineers has said we think these trees are an issue and we want them to be addressed within 15 feet of the toe of these levees. So until then, it wasn't an issue to federal regulators whatsoever. Since that time, it does show up in our inspections, so we know that we have to deal with that, and we communicated that to Saline County. And as Dan mentioned, trying to work out an equitable means to share the costs and invite them to be a partner, because we recognize looking at this, and we said, if you help us with the trees at this point, we recognize we need to keep them down from this point forward. That's important to the Corps, and that's important to us. So that would be our obligation as part of our regular maintenance in the future. But the idea of partnering today for the trees that are out there, we thought made some pretty good sense. They are going back and thinking about that, I believe. Didn't seem to be too warm to the idea at first. But again, given our time frame, it was a pretty quick time frame for them to respond, and so we're hopeful that they'll put more thought into it, because you can see by looking at the map that there's a great deal of unincorporated Saline County that is protected by the southern part of our levee. And so there are citizens, there are properties with value and so forth. And they reminded, that the state statutes do provide some language with the dealing with the ability to maybe create a special tax to maintain the levee, and we communicated that that's not really our interest for this type of maintenance for that, and we don't think the dollar figure is so large that that would be necessary. Plus, we're not all that excited about trying to create a tax for their constituents. We think that's really their area. And, you know, I guess our thought is that we just believe there's enough benefit there to justify a shared partnership, and so we hope that they'll continue to look at that and that we'll get a positive response back soon.
I would certainly hope they would reconsider.
Yeah, and we told them, we said, we're going to recommend moving forward today simply because of the timeliness of when this needs to happen, so that next year we have a core inspection. They don't come back and say, well, didn't we tell you about those trees last year, and what have you done? So we don't want to get into that situation where you get into regulatory issues.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment? Bring it back to the commission.
Mayor, I move that we award the contract for tree removal project number 082726. Am I on the right one? Oh, excuse me, I was reading it off the blue sheet. How about for the contract for tree removal project number 08-2726? Do I have wrong numbers?
Do we have to approve the base and the alternates separately?
Commissioners, if you wanted to go with the option 2, that includes the base plus the alternates. We feel that is probably the best pricing for the amount of work that's out there. That would just be option 2.
Okay. All right. Mayor, I move that we approve, award the contract for tree removal project number 082726 to APAC for $287,554.44 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award a contract for tree removal project 082726 to APAC, Kansas in the amount of $287,554.44.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, I move to recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss with legal counsel matters subject to the attorney-client privilege, for the reason that public discussion of those matters would waive the privilege and adversely affect the city's interest in the matters, and reconvene in this room at 5:08 p.m.
Second that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recess into executive session for attorney-client privilege and reconvene at 5:08. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Do you anticipate any action?
We do not.
Okay. We're in executive session.